Welcome, folks. Welcome, John. Shabbos Shuvah. Yes, it is. From North Carolina. Thank you for joining. Sandy in Michigan. Good morning. And Eugenia is with us in Calgary. Gemar Chasima Teva. Who else is joining? Eddie, Washington State. Welcome aboard. Who else is here? Darren, welcome. Diana in Texas, in the house. Rena is with us in Colorado. Davida and Liba in New York, welcome. In Conway, Arkansas. Nizara. Diane in London, Ontario. Michael is with us in Germany. Good afternoon. Who else is joining? David in California. Vaclav, from Pilsen. What's CZ? Is that Czechoslovakia? Julia, welcome, in Pennsylvania. Miriam is with us in London. Daphne in South Carolina. Zar, welcome. Tanya in Seattle. Simcha is in Florida. Denise is in New Jersey. Jack in Charlotte, North Carolina. Who else is with us? CZ is Czechoslovakia. Okay. Makes sense. Thank you, Michael. Esteban in Dallas, Texas. Okay. Beautiful. Okay, folks. Go in Peru. For all those in their hurricane or that is affected by it, Hashem bless you all. Elise is in West Virginia, Elise in Georgia. Okay. We continue in the 20th letter. A mystical one, as we've explained. So, we're explaining how the physical, the material, comes from God himself, something from nothing. We explain how it comes now, particularly through Malchus. Right, the Malchus is royalty, sovereignty, kingship. A king can only be king when there is people separate from him that accept his kingship. That's what we explained previously. So now we can understand with this why mitzvahs are in Malchus. And in God's name, the Tetragrammaton, the Yud and a Hey and a Vav and a Hey, So the latter Hey is Malchus, right? It refers to mitzvahs. That's where they come from, because mitzvahs are done in the physical. As opposed to Torah, in God's name, comes from the letter Vav, the letter that precedes it, which is Vav is 6, numeric value of 6. It refers to the 6 emotions. Chesed, Gvur, Tveres, Netzach, Chod, Yesoid. Right, the 6. That's where Torah comes from. So, in God's name, Torah, which is more spiritual, that's what we're learning. It's ideas. It's more abstract. It's more spiritual, as opposed to the mitzvah, like putting on tefillin, and we mean the act of putting on tefillin, lighting Shabbos candles, lulav and esrog, right? So, is there a problem with the video? Is it coming? It's coming through okay? All right. Sorry. So, mitzvahs that are done in the physical, so they come from Malchus. Torah, again, coming from a higher place, more spiritual, comes to the letter Vav, which is the higher attributes of the Tetragrammaton. Now, although when we speak about a higher plane, in other words, Torah in God's name and mitzvahs in God's name also have a source beyond God's name, right? In what we call the crown, Keser. Now, in the crown, metaphorically, there's 2 elements to the crown. There's the skull, right, which is over the brain, which is, again, metaphorically beyond the divine intelligence of Torah. It's called Golgotha. That level of skull sorry, 1 second. So from the skull comes out hair. So this is all the metaphor, of course. The hair, 613 hairs that come out, metaphorically, refer to the 613 commandments. They come out from the skull. Metaphorically, that refers to that which is beyond intelligence, the brain inside, and emotions. And emotions which are inside the person, right? So, in this transcendent level where Torah mitzvahs come from, now there's the root of Torah mitzvahs, in the crown, which is again metaphorically like the skull for when in reference to mitzvahs, but that which is the crown. So there's in the crown, which is Keser, which is Erech Ampim, which means the divine will that it embraces. And of course, Torah mitzvahs are the divine will of God, right? So in that level, there is the level where Torah comes from, which is the hidden intelligence in the divine will. And then there is the inward aspect of it. Okay. I want to make sure I explain this properly. It's okay. Mitzvahs come from the root source of mitzvahs is in the interface between the infinite of God, the Ein Sof, right? We explained yesterday, Keser, the crown. In the crown, there's different elements of the crown, which refers to the will of God. There's the will of God as it expresses itself in an intelligence, a hidden intelligence, which that hidden intelligence is the superior reasons for the mitzvahs that Torah teaches us, for the reason for the mitzvah. But then there's the mitzvah itself, that is not a reflection of any hidden intelligence, but beyond that. So what comes out in the root source of Torah and mitzvahs is higher than Torah. However, when it comes to us down here, so to speak, from the name of God, Torah is greater than mitzvahs, because Torah is the letter Vav of God's name, while mitzvahs is the letter Hey, the latter letter in God's name, which shows just on a come down on the divine attributes. So how is it that in its source, mitzvahs is greater than Torah? But when it comes down in a, so to speak, in a revealed way, the Torah is greater than the mitzvahs. So the Alter Rebbe explains by a metaphor. If you ever made a seal, a seal is whatever is protruding when you use the seal, it becomes an intrusion, or it becomes indented, not an intrusion, indented. And that which is not protruding, but is the opposite, is indented, when you make the seal, it will make something protruding. So it's the opposite effect. That is the idea over here, that that which comes from a higher level will protrude in a lower level down here. That which is indented in a higher level will become a lower level. I become a lower level down here, from the higher to the lower, from the lower to the higher. That's the idea. So therefore, mitzvahs is greater than Torah in its source, in its ultimate desire. But in the revealed manner, Torah is greater than mitzvahs. With this, then we can understand. With this, we can understand that the Talmud tells us that if a person learns Torah and they don't plan to fulfill its teachings, they just like its wisdom, but they don't want to fulfill its teachings, right? For a Jew, 613 commandments. For a non-Jew, 7 commandments. You don't want to fulfill it. So the Talmud tells us, our sages say, that it would have been better that if if your afterbirth would have been turned over. So the Alter Rebbe asks, why? Just say maybe better that you weren't created. In other words, we all are created for a purpose, and if we don't fulfill that purpose, it would have been better that we weren't created. I mean, in the end, we are created so we're given the opportunity to fulfill our purpose. But in the end, if we don't, in other words, if we just learn Torah for its spiritual element, but we don't fulfill its commandments, so better not to be born, says the Alter Rebbe, is what the sages should say, but not that the afterbirth should be turned over. So he explains, because this is actually the metaphor of what we're just speaking. The afterbirth is the original part of the fetus, that is the essential part of the fetus, that then becomes something after 40 days when the fetus, when it becomes into a fetus. So the afterbirth then becomes secondary. So that which is higher, right, originally, then becomes secondary. The idea that which is higher on high, which is mitzvahs, becomes lower down here. Meaning mitzvahs are lower than the study of Torah. So that's just the metaphor that's used. So the point over here, I'm sorry, the basic point over here is like this. On a surface level, mitzvahs is on a lower level, and that's why it's done in an action-oriented manner. All mitzvahs relate to an action, right? Even when it comes to the love of God, which is a mitzvah, also relates to an action, because you should feel in your heart. You should feel something. So action-oriented mitzvahs are a come down in God's name, as opposed to the spiritual aspect. Sorry. Seems like a bad connection. So I'm going to come over here. I think I have a better connection over here. Is this better? I hope this is better. So, in its root source, Torah mitzvahs is greater, because that's the ultimate purpose. The original idea is the final deed, as we said. It's the final deed. So even though it's a come down in God's name, it doesn't seem to reveal as much of God when you do a mitzvah than when you study Torah. Yet, in its root source, what God really wants is the mitzvah. Why the mitzvah? Because that is what the ultimate purpose is. All right, folks, I understand we're having problems. I hope that it's going to be okay. I'm going to end the class. Sunday's class is going to be later, because I will be traveling on Sunday. So it'll be later in the day, around 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. Probably more like 5. I'll keep you posted. All right, I'm sorry for the difficulty over here. Be well, everybody. Have a wonderful Shabbos. Thank you.